Hey, didn't see you there. I heard you want to learn how to do a Piktochart. So come along with me, Miss Sarika, as I take you on a journey across America to learn how to do a Piktochart. Okay, really, I'm not going to do any cool editing or anything. I had great ideas, but meh, we're just going to go with it. So, I'm going to help you learn how to do a Piktochart in case you were feeling a little flustered. And it's a little tricky at first, but once you get the hang of it, you will be a-okay, and it's actually pretty easy once you get started. So, oh wait, we're not using Firefox. Go away. All right, so the first thing you'll do with your Piktochart is you'll probably come over here. And click Create New. There are 3 different options that you have, which is kind of cool. So the first one, oh, what the heck? Don't want that, right? You want to click on or look at is infographic. So an infographic, like it says, it's a long form graphics. Perfect. Oh my gosh, long day. Long form graphics, perfect for the web. So you'll see it's not like just page by page by page, but it's kind of like a bunch of pages smushed together in some really long graphic with pictures. So that's pretty cool. And for what we're going to do right now, that's probably what you want. However, there's also a presentation mode. So these make slides that you can do for online presentations. So think like I haven't done it yet, but you'll probably import this into like a Google slide presentation or PowerPoint. And then last but not least, is a printable. So this is going to be done in the size of something that is printable, hence the name. And it is nice if you're going to make a flyer or want to print off something for school specifically, because these infographics, you can print them off in separate blocks, but it's not going to have that same cohesive feel. So when you design it using this printable one, that's going to be a little more fitting because you're going to have that idea in your head that it's going to cut things off versus the infographic, which you're going to probably just keep adding to, and it kind of has a flow to it. However, what I'm going to show you right now is an infographic. So an infographic, it gives you a little printable thing, kind of just what I told you. Got it? You can hit that. There are several free templates, and there is a set over here of pro templates. So I did pay for it. Ooh, bala. And you can use those if you pay for that, but I'm going to recommend that you probably don't need to pay that, even though it wasn't too bad for education. But you'll have a bunch of free ones. So I'm going to pick one. And if you want to come along and just kind of follow with me as you're watching, you can pause the video. I'm still here. So you can now come along and join me as I go through one of these. So let's kind of see which one floats my boat. Let's try this one. All right, so I'm going to click on Dark 2. I'm going to use template. And you don't have to use a template, but what's nice about it is it's already been kind of designed for you, and you can just sort of rewrite stuff. But what even cooler is that you can use what they have, you can get rid of all of it, you can add stuff in, adjust, change things as needed, and just kind of have fun playing around with something that already has a little bit of structure to it. So as you scroll down, you will see that it has a lot of information and it's kind of long. And that's the style of this infographic. You'll also notice this crazy little thing zipping around on the side. It says number 1 when I scroll here. It says number 2 when I scroll here. It says number 3. So these are almost like pages, but they call them blocks. And you'll also see there's this little gray bar. I can adjust the height of each page or block by moving that around. So you have some room to work with this. Now let's say you get to the end and you're like, I'm using this template and I do not need 5 blocks. Then all you do is click on X, delete it, and it's done. But there is also an undo button here. And up here you'll have a little toolbar, and you'll see different tools and options pop up depending on what you're working with and what has editable properties. All right, so let's go up here to the top. And what's kind of nice too with their templates is it gives you a little bit of information to kind of help you along. So it's like little mini tips hidden inside. All right, so you can see when you click it, you can move it around. And what's kind of cool is these little orange lines show up, and you're probably like, what are these? So it kind of snaps is kind of the word that they use for this. It snaps to a certain position using these little orange lines. And what that's doing is it's making it look even with other things on your page. So what you'll notice as I move that down, there's this horizontal line. That's making sure that it's lined up with this block, the red block before it. I see the stuff on the sides. I see this line through the middle, and that one's important because that gets it nice and centered in the middle of the image. That's probably one that you'll want to work with. However, maybe you want to line up the text, this box, with the other box, because not everything has to be perfectly centered to look good. So you can play around with that. However, sometimes centering is always a good way to go. Okay, so if you wanted to edit this text, you have to it's kind of weird because you get the little plus sign, which is the mover symbol, and you kind of have to click around in order to get the text little line to edit the text. So this is going to be your leadership. They used caps. That look good. Leadership, and then I'm going to make this. Oh, fix that in a sec. Same thing, I got to kind of click around. Identity. Just going to leave it like that. Now what happened to the text is it turned really dark, and it's already on a dark background. So you'll notice that this toolbar changed because I've selected the text. Up here, this little paint can, just like all the other times you've tried to change color in Google Docs, etc., gives you different options. It has recent colors, has a whole bunch of other already preset colors. If you want to choose one of these, like maybe you're going to keep with this red theme, so maybe you like the light gray and you like how that looks, but maybe you wanted to change the color altogether. There's a plus button here. When you hit this plus button, it opens up an infinite amount of colors that you could choose from. It's amazing. I knew you thought so. So as you remove this little, you click around, you'll notice here, this box, boop, 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 it changes. You can slide. Oh, look, it's amazing. You just sit here for a few minutes. Ooh, it's like a fireworks display right here. Ooh. Okay, so now that that's over, maybe you wanted a pink. Maybe, well, pink would kind of look weird with that red, but maybe you wanted some sort of a yellow. And you like that. And kind of, maybe you wanted a little more orange, so you scooch that over and you're like, yeah, that's the perfect color. What's kind of cool is it gives you a code here that you can use if you wanted to get the exact same color yellow elsewhere on the page, so you can always click back on that later. And you'll see that it automatically changes it. And I say like, yeah, that looks exactly what I wanted. Perfect. So then you can move on. And you could scroll down and move around. But let's say you're like, I think I'd like a picture up here. So right now we have this toolbar on the left-hand side, and we've got the graphics options. So you can click on shapes and icons, and you'll see it pops up. If you click it again, that little arrow is pointing toward it again, and instead of down, that means that the menu's closed. You can go to lines, photos, and there are some photos. There are some photos that you can search through, and I think you can also upload yours. I'm not sure because I have the pro account. I think I have more storage, and I think you still can do it on the free account. Then there are photo frames. So let's play a little bit with this. So shapes and icons. I could pick just generic shapes. Sometimes just a cool graphic image looks neat. So maybe I want to go with that, and you'll see some of them have color, and some of them do not have color. Maybe, I don't know. Let's pick this diamond. Just what I was looking for. Okay, now you'll notice that it's black, and I might be like, well, that's kind of ugly against this dark background, so I should probably change it. So I'm going to go back here. If the icon over here is like all black and I don't think if it's white, think if it's just black, then you can change it to any color you want. So maybe I'm going to pick that recent color I used, but I want to change it a little bit and make it darker. Kind of like a grayish one, right? I can do that. No, that doesn't really look good. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do white. That looks better. Okay, so now I've got it in front of everything. Kind of dumb, right? So I'm going to click this, and here's another tool that you will probably want to get used to. This is called Arrange. As you hover over it, it says Bring to Front. Well, the silly diamond is already in front. I don't want it there. Send to Back. I could do that, and that would send it all the way to the back layer. So think about these when you're working on this page as you're building layer upon layer upon layer. So imagine a piece of paper, and then you cut a letter out and you put it on the piece of paper, and now you cut a shape out and you put that on the piece of paper, and you cut another thing out and you put that on the paper on top of it. Well, you can take that last piece of paper and put the other one on top of it and put the other one on top of it, and you can rearrange where the layers are positioned. The same thing happens here, but it's digital. So it gives you, it's a little hard to get used to at first, but you could send this one all the way to the back, which would be like putting it on the bottom of the stack. You can bring something forward and send something backward. So these two are taking it like layer by layer by layer. These two send it all the way to the top, or all the way down to the bottom. So I'm going to just do this gently because I've also done this in the past where I've hit send to back and then it's hidden behind everything and I can't find it. So I found that sometimes going step by step is okay. Hit send backward. Oh, there's my text. Send backward. There's the bar. Send backward. There's the leadership on top of it. And I think that's cool. That's how I want it to look. Perfect. Now there's another neat tool here. This is the opacity, and that determines if it's really opaque or transparent. And opaque means nothing else behind it is going to show through. 0% would be transparent, which means you're not going to see the shape, which would be weird because you just did all that work. You probably don't want to do that. So let's just play with it so you can see. I can make it less and less transparent, or less and less opaque, or more and more opaque. And maybe I think like that's kind of harsh looking at 100%, so I could make it go down, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool there at 61% because it sort of pops and kind of gives a little depth. I like how that looks. All right, so that's how you can play with the layers and the opacity. Now going back to these shapes and icons, this shows all of them, but I can pick ones that already have color. And then this is the mono one. Mono is the one that I was talking about before, that you can change the color on them. If I went to this color one, and I'm like, oh, this pie chart looks cool, you'll notice that the color option went away versus when I click on the diamond, there's the color bucket. Click on this, color bucket went away. Click on the diamond, there's the color bucket. Click on this, the color bucket went away. What am I supposed to do? Well, you can't change the color. I already figured that out because I was like, well, how I just said that, where'd it go? That's pretty much how I was feeling. So you can't change those. If they have color, they're there. Now, if you want to delete something, you can just have the little selector box and hit delete on your computer if you want. And that's that. All right, now another thing. Let's say for leadership, maybe you wanted to find like a little icon of a person and you're like, this is really taking a long time to scroll through. So maybe I go back to all because I want to see all of them and I type in person. Let's see what happens. Maybe? No? Nothing? Oh, there it is. All right, and so maybe I'm like, yeah, I want this little guy for leadership. And I'm going to change the color because I know how to do that. I'm going to make it yellow because I like how it looks. And I'm going to put a leader guy here. And I'm going to hit Control C because I'm going to copy it. And hit Control V so I can paste it. And I think that looks kind of cool. All right, so that's how you do shapes and icons. I haven't really played with the lines, but I guess you just click it and it makes a line. You can stretch it anywhere you want. You can change the color. Oops, boop. That's kind of neat. Go with it. Sure, whatever. You can change the opacity, etc. You can change its location in the layers also. Okay, so let's look at photos. I haven't really played with this. I don't think I really want these two people smooching. Maybe I want a really cool background. Maybe I think like, and here's another tip. Don't get too crazy. There's tons of stuff here and you could really go hog wild and like put all sorts of neat things on there that you're like, yeah, this is really fun. And then when somebody looks at it, they're like, I don't even know where to start. So you could, I mean, I would probably stick with just one or two simple things. It kind of has a few things on it, but it's not too crazy. If I start like adding this picture, and remember I can send it to the back. Actually, I'll hit send to back so you can see. And I put this there. Like that's kind of a lot of stuff happening. And it doesn't really look very good, I think. I mean, you could go with it. You explore, try it out, see what works for you, figure out your style. I'm going to delete it because I think it looks a little too busy. You can pick scenery, a whole bunch of different topics. Maybe you want science. That's it? That's all they have for science? It's a bummer. Womp womp. All right, so you can go from there, and I believe you can upload pictures. Oh, there it is, under uploads. All right, photo frame. I think it just takes the picture, or you can put a picture into it, and it has like a style to it. I haven't honestly played with this too much, so let's check it out. Let's say, hey girl, shoes. Yeah, let's put some shoes in here. I don't really get that. That's kind of a weird picture too. But you just, oh, you put a picture into it and it has a little frame. So you could upload a picture and drop it in there. I don't know why people's shoes and legs are the default for that. That's kind of weird. But you could check that out so it's not just like a plain old rectangle picture. You could have your picture in the shape of numbers or letter. Oh, these are fun. Oh, that's really fun. Oops. So I could take this little guy and put a picture of my head on there. Those might be fun to play with. Photo frames, thumbs up. All right, so uploads, you'll see these are my cool pictures. And you could browse some images from your computer and upload those as well. Background. So in the background, this one has just a plain background, but you'll notice if I start clicking around on things that this one single block, not all of them, you'll notice just that one block has this new pattern with this colors, etc. It also has opacity. So you can see, maybe I like that, but that's like way too much happening. I could make it dimmer and dimmer and dimmer just so it's like got a hint of a cool pattern. Maybe that's going to work for you. And at any point when you want to save it, you hit save. Another thing I want to point out, you see how it says new Piktochart? You should change it. E-identity, or whatever you're going to name it. It's better to give something a name immediately so that you don't forget what it's called later on and have a whole bunch of untitled things, and then that's just a disaster, pretty much. All right, so background. So let's say if you want to click this background, do you see how it went to number 2 right there? So as I move around, you can see that it's only going to affect number 2. Or that one was just kind of fun. It's probably too much, but I liked it. And you go down to number 3. Now again, if I have like a different background for every single one of these, it's going to kind of look disjointed. You can play around with it and go crazy, but just know if you want it to kind of look more put together, you probably want to keep things a little simpler and like pick 1 or 2 fun things. Oops. I'm going to undo that. I did that for number 1. Down here, no image. Down here, no image. All right. Text. So you already have some text and some fonts chosen. This is obviously a title. It's going to be where it's really big and gets smaller and smaller. You can change text. So like if I click here, it has the text size and I can go around and change it, and it's kind of fun to see it gradually change. It'll change on its own up here, but if you were going to add new text and you already want it to be a certain size or a certain font, it'll be there. You can change the font by clicking on here, and you'll see there's a whole bunch of different fonts and you could test them out. I, again, wouldn't recommend doing like a bunch of different fonts because that gets a little busy, but you can play around with it. Now, text frames are kind of cool. These have text already in them, but let's say you wanted to use this. You can change the font inside of here and have like a cool looking thing. Now, again, this doesn't look really good on the black background, so I probably wouldn't use it. But if you were to click it, you could say like well, maybe I wouldn't use that one. I would delete that one totally, and I put in here communication, and it already auto adjusts the font size, which is cool. But I'm not going to use this, so goodbye. Get out of here. All right, so play around with the text. The color scheme, I don't even use that, so don't even worry about it. So pretty much you just have to kind of play around with it. And I've given you the basics. You can move these blocks and adjust them if you've started with one. Like maybe you have a block for each of your different 6 skills or something. You could move those around and adjust them. You could clone some things if you want to keep the same theme and just change and edit the stuff. You can do that. You can move stuff around, play around with it, and get rid of things. And again, you're going to notice that when you click through the templates that there is a ton of layering. So for example, to get this little Facebook icon, if I were to play around with it, wow, there's an F and a circle. It was not already made, so you kind of have to get creative. Same thing with the Twitter one. There's the little Twitter bird, whee, and a circle, and then they just created it that way. So there are lots of different ways that you can play around with stuff and play with the layers, and you just have to sort of mess around with it and kind of get into it. I would keep it simple the first time. I would either keep what they have or try to simplify something there, and just kind of be like text, blop, picture, title, text, picture, title, text, picture. Maybe just at first if you're feeling a little overwhelmed. So the big thing that you need to understand are the layers, that things layer on top of each other and you can adjust those. The changing of colors and fonts is going to be important and helpful for you. And then going into the shapes and icons to find different things to kind of give it a boost. And remember, when you're typing stuff, you don't want to have a huge paragraph because it's going to be too hard for someone to read. So you want to simplify it, and you could use all these, like you could use this shape here, which is kind of a neat shape. Oops. Maybe you want to change, it's too hard to see, so I'm going to change it with this yellow. Maybe to make something stand out. This is where that layering comes in, right? And I want to move it backwards. And if that takes too long, then you can just hit send to back. And then the text you'll see is sitting, can't really tell, colors are weird, but it's sitting on top of it. Oh, there's another thing too. This one right here, flip left, right, or flip top to bottom. So let's say you had that person piece on, person, and maybe you've got, I'm going to go with the yellow again so it stands out, and you're like, oh, that's perfect, but I want it facing the other direction. What do I do? This flips it, boop, 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 whichever direction. Maybe you want him reading upside down. I don't know why. Like that, and you probably still want this alignment guide on. So, boop, boop, boop. All right, this is super long, so hopefully this wasn't awful, but hopefully you were able to play around with it as I was going through things, try things out, and give it a try, explore, and you'll get better and better the more you do. All right, good luck. Happy Pikto charting.